So as requested, I am going to teach today how to make this beautiful flower. I'm not entirely sure what type of flower it is considered to be, but I love that it has this little star in the center, these ridges that go up the side, and then just by pinching the ends a little bit, you can create this really graceful swirl. It's really beautiful. The backside is even pretty cool, and with it being shaped like this, you could very easily add a stem and glue it in place and put this flower on a stick and have a whole bouquet of them. Now, I will say this is a fairly complicated piece. There's a lot of moving parts and a lot of things that you have to keep going all at the same time. So please take it slow. Feel free to slow down my video. If you get frustrated, it's all right to put it down and walk away and come back. But once you've mastered this, you can then start bragging about how awesome you are at origami. So the first step in making this flower is we have to turn our square piece of paper into a pentagon. And the easiest way to do that is to fold your paper in half into a rectangle. And then what I like to do is I'm going to take just the top flap and I'm going to line up that bottom edge to the creased edge. But before I crease it down, I'm just going to take my finger and run it from the point just to the center-ish area, so it creates that little crease. Then what I'm going to do is take my open flap and bring it over to the crease side. But again, instead of creasing the whole thing down, I'm just going to crease about where that last one was, so I get a nice little overlap. So if I really kind of emphasize it, you can see where those two lines intersect, and that's the important part. That's why we don't have to crease it in all these other spots. So once you know where those two lines intersect, you're going to take the far corner, the corner of the short side and the creased side, and you're going to bring it all the way over so that corner rests right at that intersection. And then you're going to crease that down completely flat. Then you're going to take that bottom diagonal edge and you're going to bring it over to the outside crease, like so, and crease that down. Then you're going to take the rest of your original creased edge and you're going to bring it up to this new edge from our last fold. Like that. And then if you flip it over, you're going to take the outer edges and you're going to bring them together. So you're just going to fold them over and crease it into place. Now what this does is this divides the paper into 5 equal parts. So if I open it up, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So once that's all together, you can cut on this line because you're going to see it out of all the lines. It's the one that's closest to the center. So just taking a nice pair of scissors, you're going to cut straight across on that line. We can move those out of the way. And when you open it up, you have a perfect pentagon. Pentagon. You can also find a pentagon shape online, print it out and trace it onto your paper, but I find this is actually the easiest way because we actually need all these lines. So I like to then go through and just crease them all so they're all facing the same direction. Be careful that you don't crease kind of on the line, but not quite like I just did, but make sure they're all facing the same direction. I'll help keep you organized later on. So now we're going to start folding. And what's interesting about this shape is we have to do a lot of pre-creases in order to build us up to where we need to be. So the first thing we're going to do is going completely around the pentagon. We're going to take our bottom edge and we're going to line it up to the crease that goes to the center. So let me demonstrate. We're going to fold it like that. So we're going to take that bottom edge, line it up to the crease that goes from the corner to the center. But when you do this, again, we don't have to crease the whole way. We actually want to crease to this little line here. And if you open it up, it's the next line over. So all we're going to do is hold it into place. And the way that I like to do this is I find the line, I put my fingernail right on that spot, and then I just drag it to the outside. and that will create that line where we need it. Then we're just going to rotate, and we're going to do the same thing. And we're going to do that 5 times. So again, right to that little line. And we're going to rotate to that little line with our finger and drag it to the corner. And again. And one last time. So you see, each time I personally like to rotate clockwise, but whatever direction you go is fine. Now we're going to do the same thing, but on the opposite side of the line. So you'll see how I have these creases going this way. Now we want to make one going this way. And we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to line up that bottom edge to the next crease over that goes from the corner to the center. And the same thing, I'm going to go right to that first line and drag it out. And so you'll see what that's going to create is this sort of crease. So we're going to do it 4 more times. Depending on the light, it might be hard to see them, so it's always good to use good light. But we're going to just keep going around, line our finger up to that crease. And again. And one last time. So that creates all those little creases that we'll be using later, and you can start seeing like a little bit of a star design. That's part of how we're going to get the shape that we want. The next step is with one of the points facing towards your body. If you slowly curl this edge up, you're going to notice something. You're going to notice that you have a point where this line and this line that we just did meet on both sides, but you'll notice that we don't have a line going in here, or if we do, it's kind of curved from those last creases. So what you're going to do, and this part might seem a little bit tricky, is you want to make a line from those intersections. So you'll see if I put my thumbs on each of those little intersections, I have a little bump here. So all I'm going to do is take my fingernail and I'm going to crease it right there. So it'll give me a nice straight line. So now I have the lines that were already there, plus those V-shaped lines that I just did, plus the one that I just did across the center. So we're creating some nice intersections. We're going to rotate it. You can see this time I'm going counterclockwise, and I'm going to do the same thing. Just use my thumb, rotate it. I'm going to line it up to those intersection points and drag my thumb across to give it a nice crease. And I'm going to keep going. It's nice because if you've been creasing well, those intersections will kind of just bring themselves out. So we will do that, and then one more. Oh, never mind, that was 5. Haha, already did it. So we're almost done. We have one more type of crease that we want to do. Now this one, again, we're going to line it up with the intersections. So you can see where all of our lines have intersected, right? So the first line that we are, the first 2 lines that we did, plus that one that we just did, all intersect with one of our cross lines. So again, what we want to do though is create more intersection. And so what we're going to do is with our flat edge, we're going to roll it up until it lines up with that intersection right there. And we are going to crease that from the closest line to the center across to the next closest. So you'll see I crease between this line here and this line here. So I'm going to rotate it. I guess I'm going counterclockwise again. And I'm going to do again, I'm going to go, from one crease to the next crease. And I'm just using my fingernail to make sure that I get a nice tight crease. So again, I'm going to roll it up so it lines up with that intersection. And then I'm just going to crease it into place. And rotate, roll it up. And again, from one line to the next. If you do full across, that's okay. It might just make it a little bit difficult for some of the future steps because you're going to have some extra lines to work against. So now you'll see, if I kind of flip it over, you can see we have a pentagon, we have a pentagon, we have lots of diagonal lines, and what this is going to do is create the shapes and the lines that we need in order to start forming our flower. So what I like to do, and it's not necessarily part of the instructions, is I like to kind of build it and do some pre-creases, undo the whole thing so that it all fit together easier. So what I want to do is these V's, some of the first lines we did after making the pentagon, I don't know why I keep saying that, is we're going to bring those in, and when we pinch them, we want this center line to pop up. So we're going to put a mountain fold between two valley folds. And then when it meets this intersection, we want the line to switch from a mountain to a valley. So it's going to start making this sort of shape. And I like to prep this because even though that's not how it's going to stay, it's going to make it easier. So then after we do that, we're going to take the whole thing and flatten it, fold it forward. And then I like to just pinch it into place. So you're going to have this little double V. You're going to have it, it's kind of like going to sit on top of that other crease. And then I undo the whole thing, but this way all my lines are going where they're supposed to go. So we're going to do the same thing again. We want that center line to pop up. We want the lines next to it to pop down. And then we want them where they intersect with these two little V's to switch. And then I'm going to fold it forward so it lands right on top of there on that crease. And then I'm going to gently unfold the whole thing. And I'm going to repeat. So again, this one's going to come up. These ones are going to come down, and everything's going to kind of fold onto itself. And then I'm going to crease it forward, and that way I have all my creases going in the directions that I want them to go. Two more. And up, down, pinch them together. Bring the whole thing forward and then pinch them in between. And one more. This is going to come up. These are going to come down. I'm going to just kind of pop that back so that it can all come into place like so. Okay, so now that we have those shapes kind of the way that we want them, so it's going to fit together better, we're going to repeat some of this. We're going to bring this forward like that, but instead of having those side lines coming in, we're going to leave them facing out. So all I'm going to do is pinch. It's going to create that little triangle. It almost reminds me of a Mercedes sign. We're going to bring it forward until the plane of this triangle flat against this triangle, and then we're going to fold the whole thing in half. So it's going to create this up, down, up, down. But because we did that kind of like pre-creasing, it's going to fit together a lot easier than if you try and just skip that step and go straight for this one. You can absolutely do that, and over time as you get practice at this, it might be faster, but for me, this is definitely the way to go. So now we have this shape. This actually reminds me of a juicer. You know, you put your orange on it and you twist it. This is what the back looks like. Now in order to get that really pretty star in the middle, this little star, we have to utilize the lines that are already in there and pop it in. So how we're going to do that is easiest for me is to kind of hold this little flap that's sticking up and to just pinch. So I'm gonna, it's hard to describe. I'm gonna hold the center where all the lines converge. I'm gonna pinch this little sail. And if I pinch them both, it's gonna kind of create a little line there. And I'm just gonna very gently take my index finger and my thumb, and I'm going to pinch it so it creates a flat crease. And I'm going to repeat that on all 5 sides. So I'm not going to pinch super hard or anything, just enough to get that little crease there, because what we need right now is like an extra little pentagon in the center there. So you see, mine's not perfectly even, but ultimately it doesn't have to be. Nice little pentagon in the middle. You can see it from the other side. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to push down on the long line that leads to the points on that mini one. And I'm going to push in on the center. And I'm just going to slowly start working it into a star shape. But by doing it a little bit on each edge before doing the whole thing, I can help ease it all together. But once we've got that in place, we can just keep working it in and creating that. Now I am going to take my scissors and just kind of push in the center there, because it doesn't seem to want to go in completely on its own. So just going to help it out. You do want to be careful. So this is pretty inexpensive paper. You can find my recommendations on origami paper on my website, but you can see when I started pushing in there, it created a teeny little hole, but that's okay. I don't really need that. So it's not perfect, but I now have this nice little star in the middle, and I have these 5 little towers that are sticking up, and everything kind of converges together. Now, one of our final steps is we have this pretty crease here, and what we're going to do is basically invert it. So the easiest way to do that is to just use the end of your finger. If you have nails, great. If not, you can still do it, and kind of roll it in so that it tucks in next to that star there. And then I like to just crease it in place. And from the bottom side, I'll just kind of pinch that end to help keep it in place. And you can see it then tucks in. So we're going to do the same thing from the side. We're going to just open it ever so slightly so we can push that crease in, which will invert it. And we're going to line it up right into that little armpit of the star. And we're going to pinch down at the bottom. And then we're going to repeat it. So from the top, I'm just going to take that crease. I'm going to invert it by sticking it into the quote-unquote armpit of the star, which I don't think is a phrase I ever thought I'd say, and pinch it at the bottom. Then I'm going to repeat. And you can see that sometimes that little gap there tries to like collapse on itself, and I just help pop it open. You can even from the outside just kind of squish it into place. And then, perfect. And then we'll do it one more time. And we're just gonna pinch it into place, pinch it between the star armpit, and we have this pretty little flower. And then what I like I said before, is that you can pinch the ends here, just between your thumb and your finger, and it creates this nice little S curve to the flower, which I think just makes it look really graceful and really pretty. And that's it. So I have this pretty blue one, and then this purple one, which you can see the star in the middle came out a little bit different. This yellow one. Again, they all look a little bit different, even though they're the same. I have this pink one, which was actually the first one I did, and I totally messed it up. So it wasn't holding into place, so I just glued it in a couple places, but even that is really pretty. You can tell I kind of misstepped with a few of my angles. And then you can also do it with pattern paper, which is really, really pretty as well. So I know this can be a tricky form, so please don't hesitate to rewatch the video, give it another try, see if it gets any easier. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to comment or email me. I don't want this to be frustrating, but also remember that this is a frustration that you can totally overcome, and it's going to be a really good distraction from some frustrations that maybe are a little bit longer standing. So enjoy, happy folding.